Hey, I'm Ben.
And I'm Bart.
We're here to talk about some sports.
College football is started today. It's August 2nd. College football starts later this month. We're going to give our playoff predictions. It's a little surprise team that we expect to make some noise in college football later this season. Ben, start with you. Getting these rankings are in no particular order. Who are the four teams you expect to see in the college football playoff?
Okay, so I have three that I think are definitely going to make it, and then I'm torn on my fourth. So I think Georgia, Clemson, and Michigan State will make it. And then I'm torn between Washington or Alabama.
Okay. Two your teams I agree with, Georgia and Clemson. Bama I obviously agree with, but why is Bama a question between Washington? What makes you think Michigan State can get into the playoff?
Okay, so two questions. So I think Alabama is a good enough team to make it. I think they have a lot of talent as every year, but eventually you're going to have a down year.
Right.
And I think this year may be that year. They play a tough Auburn team, and then they also have Auburn and possibly Mississippi State contending for that SEC West championship.
Right.
Even if Alabama does lose to Auburn or win against Auburn, I still think they lose to Georgia in the SEC championship game.
Mm-hmm.
So if the argument is that two SEC teams can't make it, then I think Washington slides in. Potentially even if they do lose to Auburn in that first game. But if they win that first game against Auburn, then Washington for sure has a chance to take that fourth spot over Alabama. And I think Washington, as we've seen last year, and then especially the year before,
When they made the playoff.
that when they did make the playoffs, that they are a good team and they are coached well. And so I think they definitely have a shot to contend for that fourth spot.
Okay, now Michigan State.
So Michigan State, I know I've told you already, but I've researched and they have 19 returning starters. Think about that for a second. That's you're only missing two. You're only losing two starters, which is incredible. Like they have a lot coming back, and they won 10 games last year.
Right.
So they're only going to get better, you would suspect, and so that's why I have them in the playoffs.
I mean, good arguments on all of them. We only have two teams in common. Well, one and a half, I guess, since Bama's kind of a half team for you. I have Bama, Clemson, Michigan, and Oklahoma. Oklahoma, Michigan, probably the two biggest red flags up there. Michigan, probably the same reason that Michigan State in and Ohio State in. We don't know about Urban Meyer. Now, if he was obviously the head coach and none of this stuff that came out, how we talked about this 2-3 days ago, we would have said, Ohio State. Ohio State is definitely in the college football playoff. They got talent. And they're coached well.
Right.
Michigan, I think they're coached well. Jim Harbaugh, is a great coach. But they recruited well, and I think they're the best team on paper in the Big 12, regardless of Ohio State. Big 10, excuse me. Regardless of if Ohio State's in it or not. They might have, in my mind, probably the most talented quarterback in the Big Ten in Shea Patterson. Even though he has not played it down in the Big Ten, he showed how he can put up some numbers as he did last year at Ole Miss when he started a handful of games for the Rebels. You, of course, saw some of those games firsthand. So what type of quarterback is Michigan getting? Because there is some people who say that he was kind of a failure at Ole Miss. So what do you take from his time at Ole Miss?
So looking at the stats, if you look just at the stats, you see he put up huge numbers at Ole Miss.
Right.
That didn't necessarily lead to wins. I think some of the reason was Ole Miss' defense is horrible, and so no matter how good our offense was, sometimes
shootouts every week.
Yes, sometimes you still can't win if you have no defense. Another thing I saw is he lets his receivers work. So sometimes he'll throw it short, but he'll throw a short pass, and he's very accurate in his short to mid-range game. Deep ball is not necessarily there. I think he needs to work on that. But mid to short passing situations, he's going to be he's going to be excellent in those scenarios. And I think that with some more experience and a good foundation and a solid Michigan team around him, I think he can make some moves and make some noise in the Big Ten.
Well, see, exactly. That's what I'm banking on. I went to some of those games visiting you, and I for some weekends. On the Oklahoma, that's probably the biggest question mark. That's the biggest. Big 12 in my mind is probably the biggest question mark of any of these conferences. Because there's no real. I mean, obviously Oklahoma's at the top, but are they going to be as good as they were last year? They obviously lost Heisman Trophy winner, number one overall pick in the draft, Baker Mayfield, but also lost Orlando Brown, who was that linchpin of that offensive line. That defense, who knows? I mean, it's the Big 12, so
Yeah.
defenses are awful. But they have a good receiving core. I'm banking on Kyler Murray. I mean, obviously the question is he focused on the game or is he focused on the fact that after this year he can start making money playing baseball? I think he'll be focused. And I understand, there's all the question of his time at A&M. He was benched. He didn't play well. I disagree with all that because Kevin Sumlin ran that program terrible. You had Kyler Murray, then Kyle Allen, who, I mean, he never really was sold on a guy of who he wanted to be the starter. He kept going back and forth. So I think Kyler knows if he wins this job, that it's his job to have. And I think he'll know, and Lincoln Riley will give him that type of confidence, like, hey, this is your job, don't mess up, and you'll have it. So I think he'll have that confidence in himself that I think he lacked in his time at A&M, and I think he'll play very well. Now let's go to our surprise teams, a team that maybe is on some people's radar to do something, but you think can exceed expectations that people are having for them.
Okay. So my surprise is I think that Texas will win the Big 12. Yes, that's right. The University of Texas in Austin, the Longhorns, will win the Big 12. You heard it here first.
Okay, so I talked about how I think Oklahoma's the most talented team in the Big 12. What, besides what I've already said, made my question about Oklahoma, what makes you think they're better than a team like TCU, West Virginia, who is returning a lot of players, each of those teams, who finished ahead of Texas last year?
Well, so I think that Texas will have a breakout year. I think they're bound to have one eventually,
Right.
and I think that this year will be it. They won't necessarily win 11, 12 games, contend for a title.
Right, and really they just have to finish second in the conference, and then they automatically get a bid against more seriously probably Oklahoma.
Yeah, if they finish second, they're still a surprise. They're
Right.
still going to be better than people expect them to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they'll win it. I think Oklahoma's going to struggle. I think Kyler Murray's going to struggle a lot. He may not be the quarterback by the end of the year. Honestly, let's be real about what
Right.
he's done up to this point.
Nothing.
It's nothing.
Right, I
So
agree.
we don't really know how good he is. And I think Texas has the opportunity with a good running game, improved defense. They can make some noise and possibly get that first spot and over a Texas, a TCU team or a West Virginia. West Virginia is going to be a very talented team, no doubt, but I think that Texas can beat them.
My surprise team is Arizona State, coached by Herm Edwards, returning to the coaching reins for the first time since 2007, returning to college coaching for the first time ever. He's never been a college head coach. I think he'll get those kids to believe. Plus, Pac-12 in my mind is down this year, especially the division. I think on the Pac-12 South. USC is obviously going to be down. UCLA, new coaches there, new coach at Arizona. So I think Arizona State, they had some talent last year. I think they're second in the conference. I'm in the division, so just improve on that. Win beat USC, and you're in the conference title game. Now they obviously, they have to deal with Stanford and Bryce Love. I think Bryce Love is going to have the type of season that Christian McCaffrey had in his junior year when he came back after being a Heisman finalist. Yeah, he had a good year, but you kind of seen that maybe his heart wasn't in the entire season. Obviously, he didn't play in the bowl game in the Sun Bowl that year against North Carolina. So, yeah, I think Arizona State, coached by Herm Edwards, I think they can win the Big 12. Or the Pac-12.
Yeah,
sorry.
I can see that. You could really argue that Pac-12 is pretty open.
Right.
It just takes one good team that could potentially challenge Washington for that top spot.
And especially that division has had a different winner every year. The South, it's USC, UCLA, Arizona State. I think won a couple times as has Arizona. But I think Washington's gonna be down. I think they're gonna be in that first game hype against Auburn. Hey, national television, ACC opponent, top 10. Let's make some noise. And I think they're gonna lay an egg. Jake Browning, in my mind, he had a good sophomore season, but he struggled last year. I think he struggled this season. In Stanford, I think we'll rely too much on Bryce Love.
Interesting. All right. Well, thanks for listening. Come back and watch it.
So.